He's back, and this time he's got a short video that won't take me an hour to cover. It's Magnifico Giganticus, who I already responded to, but he responded to me, so now I have to respond to the response. This could go on forever. Maybe. Now, he didn't respond to, pretty much anything I said, except for that the method that we atheists appear to be using, he thinks is flawed. So we'll talk about that and his video, and it won't be an hour, probably, So, all right, let's check it out.
A couple of days back, a guy called The Converted Man had done a review of one of my videos, which I appreciate, for the record. But I hadn't really got into it that far. There was kind of an issue early on. And, so in the original video that he was reviewing of mine, I had been talking about Matt Dillahunty, and I believe I had safely inferred that Matt Dillahunty, in the way of evidence for God, he wanted something that was falsifiable and testable, right? He wanted something that was direct and definitive, and that he could just throw all the testing he wanted at, and it would still hold true. And I believe kind of Deconverted Man was kind of in the same vein. I think he would agree with Matt Dillahunty in that way. And it feels like this is flawed as a methodology, as a standard for evidence, I guess, in that we don't apply this to almost anything. I can imagine certain scientific scenarios in which you could maybe apply it, but overwhelmingly, it feels like we don't, right? I know this is the case because the overwhelming majority of information we have, the things we believe, are derived from secondary sources.
Okay, so that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. Whether or not a majority of humans believe in things because of secondary or third or however many indirect sources, that doesn't negate the fact that we need empirical evidence, repeatable tests, and or valid and sound arguments to think that something is true, that we should have that. Somebody somewhere should have that. You can say that the world is flat, but the observations of the world show that that's not the case. The flat earthers recently had an interesting challenge posted to them by this gentleman who ran TFE, the final experiment, the flat earth TFE, very clever. And the final experiment was to go to where the sun doesn't set, and it's really cold there, and he was going to pay for a number of people, and other people were paying their own way, and he invited all the flat earthers, and only a few were courageous enough to go, and they weren't told what they could or couldn't bring, and as far as video cameras and when or they could stream and all this, and they went and they recorded the sun never setting for 24 hours. And this one flat earth guy basically said that he didn't know how it was done, but he believed that all that footage was faked. He didn't care about the overwhelming empirical evidence that these people had collected. Didn't matter. They went and collected it. I have no reason to doubt that they collected it, that they filmed the sun for 24 hours and that it didn't set. And you could watch their streams and you could see them. And some of them had set up a camera to stream 24 hours and the sun didn't set. That's it. Flat Earth should be dead. But because people want to believe in it, they deny the empirical evidence. They also deny math. They deny a lot of things. So they come to the belief that they do for a number of reasons, but the primary cause of flat Earth is religion, specifically Christianity, go figure. They read in the Bible, it says something that the earth is flat, or they think it says that, and there you go. And this one guy brought up God a couple times, so he definitely is in that camp. Some people have other reasons, but that seems to be the primary reason. And most other Christians say, well, that's silly. Even the Young Earth Creationist Institute says, hey, guys, no, the world is an obloid spheroid. It's a ball. Don't do this. You know, even they, as crazy as they are, recognize, there's too much evidence. And that's the point. There is actual evidence. You could go and see the sun not set on, particular months for yourself. But you don't have to, because other people have done it for you, and they've recorded that. They've documented that data, and that data is accessible. If you have further questions, or if you're in doubt for whatever reason, then yes, you can go yourself. If you have questions about science, you can look up various scientific papers and read through them and see what conclusions are drawn and what methods they used. And yes, if you wanted to, you could do the experiments. Not all, but many of them. But the fact is that there's an insane amount of information and data that has been produced, so that it becomes inconceivable that people would all be in some weird conspiracy to just make up, say, biological evolution. People from different backgrounds, different religions, different countries, different political viewpoints, all these scientists who have published paper after paper agreeing with biological evolution, and yet the anti-evolutionist type, the creationist ID proponents, don't believe in biological evolution despite the overwhelming evidence that it's true. They say things like, we've never observed it, we have observed it. They say things like, it's not testable, it has been tested. They say all sorts of things about it in order to deny it, because they have a belief not founded in actual evidence. They're getting their ideas directly from the Bible. They're getting their ideas of how reality works from how they decide to interpret the various scriptures in the Bible. They are not getting it from sources that have done the hard work of investigation, documentation, study, data gathering, etc. Anti-vaxxers don't believe in vaccines, not because of science, but because of all sorts of conspiracy nutsoids. They do not get their data and evidence from reputable sources. They get it from people on Facebook or social media or some group on Reddit or wherever the bleep they meet on some forum. And they believe the nonsense because they, number of reasons, conspiracy theories or, mistrust of the government or whatever, not because of the overwhelming data and evidence. I tend to be skeptical of things when there is not empirical evidence, repeatable tests, or valid and sound argument for it. The fact that other people do not do this doesn't negate my methodology. The fact that sometimes we don't directly test every single thing doesn't negate the need for testing. We can relax and sit back, so to speak, in the dentist chair, knowing that the dentist that is working on our teeth has undergone training to do so, that they have a license, and that if they screw up, we can sue them for a whole lot of money. This ensures that they are competent. If we find out they didn't have a license, oh boy, are they going to be in trouble. They're going to go to jail, more than likely. Doctors as well. Hospitals don't hire doctors that are incompetent, by and large. They are very careful about who they get on staff, because one bad doctor could sink that hospital's reputation, their business. If they go under, that's it. They're done. They don't want to do that. So they make sure that the doctors know what they're doing, that they've been practicing, that the doctor has legitimate degrees. And so we have systems in place that ensure our safety when it comes to doctors and dentists and to some extent psychologists, although that could be more robust than it is. But, you know, there's things in place that keep us relatively safe, relatively speaking. There was that big hoo-ha when that airline had part of it, piece of it fly off. They had to pay people like crazy. Their reputation was hurt. We all heard about it. And, you know, I don't know if they got sued or not, but, you know, they're in deep, deep poo-poo. And so they have to go and check and recheck all their stuff, and they have to reassure the airlines that they do business with that it's not going to happen again. And, you know, it's a lot of money that they have to fix the problem with, because the systems in place that we have work to correct when flaws happen. System isn't perfect by any means of the imagination, and certainly it could be improved. If you go to an acupuncture person, they will work on you. However, none of their work is supported by anything whatsoever. There is no empirical evidence. There is no data. There is absolutely nothing at all to show that acupuncture actually does anything. And different acupuncture people will say different things about acupuncture, and different acupuncture people will have different charts of where on you they're supposed to poke the needle in, because it's based on chakras, which aren't real. They don't have actual evidence. They have pseudoscience. It doesn't matter if you have secondhand information, as long as that secondhand information is coming from a reputable source of some sort that you can reliably trust to not be lying to you. And if you're not sure, then you better look into it. But when it comes to finding out if there is or isn't empirical evidence for a thing, and you look into the matter and find there isn't any, then you have to ask yourself, why the bleep would I believe it? What thing do you believe in that you cannot find empirical evidence, a repeatable test, or a valid and sound argument for, other than your beliefs regarding God, the afterlife, the supernatural, paranormal, superstitions, magic, what have you? People believe in ESP. People believe that people have different extrasensory powers, you know. Those have been tested and have failed every time. Prayer has been tested in metadata studies and shown the result to be what we would expect from chance. So prayer isn't apparently testable. Why not? I don't know. Maybe God doesn't want it tested, so it hides when it knows we're testing it. But what we can conclude is that whatever good prayer might do for the individual because of meditation, which is what prayer is kind of like, it certainly doesn't seem to have any effect on other humans that we can measure. And in one test, we actually had a negative result where the people got worse because they were informed they were being prayed for, which made them do worse, and they think that it was because the people thought, well, oh no, I'm so bad off, I'm getting prayed for. But it depends upon the people, I would think. Some people would want to be prayed for. So, you know, but when we went to test it, we got the results of what we'd expect if no prayer was taking place. God, whatever it is not testable, isn't empirically investigatable, hasn't had papers written about it in scientific journals or publications. There is zero data on it. You mentioned history, and I haven't gotten to that part, but he mentions history, so I guess I'll have to play the video to get to that part.
You hear it from someone who hears it from someone who might have done the testing themselves. We don't do the legwork ourselves, right? So the things we know, the things we believe, are derived from indirect evidence. Someone telling us about them, someone telling us about someone who told them about it, right?
Right. And if I tell you that I saw an alien spacecraft, you have every reason to think that there's questions to ask me. Maybe I saw it. Maybe. But you don't have any reason to think that what I saw was actually an alien spacecraft. Perhaps I deeply believe that I saw it, but you don't have any evidence of for yourself, so you don't have any reason to believe it. The claim is one that is non-mundane, thus requires ample evidence to show that it's true. One way that this has come to be phrased is that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
History is a great example of this, right? In theory, we believe
that. Okay, see, I said he mentioned history, but he hadn't got to that point. So history. By and large, we have writings of people that may or may not have been around at the time. Sometimes we don't have any writings. We have archaeological digs that have been done and found artifacts, and we have to make inferences. And it depends on what you're looking at that's historical and what conclusions can or cannot be drawn. Historians use a methodology of relying upon archaeology, which is a version of science, and textual criticisms, and one other thing. It is that if and when any historical writing claims something of the supernatural variety, the document is then categorized as mythology. Why? Because we have not observed anything today that suggests that things like that can really happen. Zeus and his various other gods under Zeus, all of that's mythology. We don't believe in it, but maybe somebody somewhere does. But it's categorized as mythology because we don't have evidence of Zeus. And Zeus is a supernatural entity. If a historical document has claims of somebody flying through the sky like a Superman would, we categorize that as mythology or fiction, either way. The Bible is largely mythology. There are a handful of things that are in there that are actual cities that you can actually find to be real, and there's a handful of famous names that you can verify, but the rest of it, you can't. So you could be skeptical about it, you could hold it in question, but for the supernatural claims, that's all mythology. There's zero reason to believe in any supernatural claim until it's been demonstrably demonstrated that the supernatural is even a thing. We have never observed anybody walk on water or raise somebody from the dead or cure somebody from blindness or cure somebody from being deaf. What we have seen are a number of charlatans who make those kind of claims and are revealed to be fakers, hucksters, con artists, tricksters. Again and again, we have never observed anything supernatural. And when people make claims, there's, oh, in this book, there's all these supernatural events listed out, and they're all undocumented things. I was told about the miracle of Fatima that occurred. And I forget where. I could look it up if you're really wanting to know. But basically, a statue of Mary had been exposed to some acid. And this acid melted the paint around her, but didn't mess with her. And then at a later date, there was an explosion near the statue, but she remained unharmed. And so they declared it a miracle, the Catholic Church did. And I said, well, that's interesting. Can I pour some acid or blow up that statue? No. They don't want anyone messing with the statue. Why? Well, my suspicion is that if you poured acid or exploded the statue, it would melt the statue and explode it. But they don't want anyone testing it. Wonder why. Odd that, isn't it? The often lauded stupid Shroud of Turin that I'm sick about hearing is kept by the Catholic Church. And the very, very few tests that they allowed anyone to run on it weren't hardly enough to establish anything about it. And so it's remained locked and key ever since. They don't want anyone testing it. I wonder why. If people make a claim that some event is supernatural, but then don't let us test it, I'm going to be very doubtful that that's a real thing. So, in regards to God, I don't care who told you that they think that they saw God. I haven't seen God. And I suspect you haven't seen God. It's very nice that they think that they've seen God. Gee, I wish they had taken a picture or a video of it. That would have been nice. All the times that people claim to have seen Bigfoot and failed to take a picture are quite extraordinary. Nobody seems to be able to take a picture of the damn thing. Same thing with flying saucers. Because there's no empirical evidence of these things, we shouldn't believe them. Whether they come from first or secondhand accounts or whatever, however long that chain of accounts is, if there's no empirical evidence or repeatable tests for it, then there's no reason to believe in it. Yet your belief persists in spite of the lack of evidence. You believe in God for a number of reasons. Cultural might be one. You probably were surrounded by people at a younger age that all believed in God, and broadly speaking, there are many, many believers in God in our society. So it's easy to believe in God because other people out there also believe in God. But that doesn't make God real. That somebody somewhere wrote down that a God exists doesn't make that person tell the truth. There are many such writings. Joseph Smith wrote that he found a whole bunch of golden plates in a cave that nobody else can go and see, and he can translate them. And yeah, sure you did, buddy. I believe you. Scientology is completely based on a completely made-up story. Dianetics and I forget the other one, but at any rate, the guy Ron Hubbard or whatever, he wanted to start a religion. That was his whole, and he did. And Scientology is huge. It makes a lot of money, but it's all bullshit. And we know it's bullshit, except for the ones that are involved in it and believe in it. And guess what? There's zero empirical evidence for all of it. Zeno put a atomic bomb into a volcano. Sure, he did. Whatever. And if the Mormons are right, and if you do your work really good, then you'll be a god of your own planet eventually. Yeah, sure, why not? Well, there's no empirical evidence of that. There's no test that you could run on it. But they think it's true. And they have a direct eyewitness, Joseph Smith, who claims to have seen the golden plates himself. Yeah, sure, he made up a story, and other people believed it. The stories of the Bible concerning the New Testament are late to the game. I think the earliest, I want to say offhand, is 5 years after the events, maybe later. And that's a significantly lengthy period of time from when the event supposedly happened to when it gets penned down, or at least when we have the first copy of something being written, because if there was earlier copies, we haven't found them yet. Maybe they're out there to be found. I don't know. But my point is not to harp on the amount of time between the story being told and written down, because I know, based on the Mormon thing, that it doesn't take that long to just make up a story and for people to believe in it. So it could have happened that very day that somebody just made up a story, wrote it down, and told people about it, and got other people to believe in it. Because it sounds good. Because they said, well, I saw it. Are you going to call me a liar? I was there. I saw all this stuff happen. How dare you go look into it for yourself to verify? Well, that's a silly methodology. Do you do that for anything else? No. Well, then just believe me. Yeah, sure. Do you believe everything that everybody tells you? If so, you owe me $10,000. Yeah, you didn't know that, but Magnifico Giganticus, you owe me $10,000. You want me to prove that? Come on, you don't use that for anything else. Why would you use it on me asking for $10,000? So, you said that there was a problem in the first few moments of my video, meaning you didn't watch my entire video. It's an hour long. I don't blame you, I guess. I wonder if you'll watch this entire video. It's much shorter. Let me know if you do. And for everybody else, including Magnifico Giganticus, be skeptical. And until next time, well, just stay skeptical. Thanks for watching.